Hello and welcome to my video on grief and loss. Hope everybody is doing well. Okay, I'm going to speak from the heart a lot. I'm not necessarily going to, I never read to you, I want to I'm going to talk about several concepts. You're reading the textbook, and you've got the PowerPoints here. Uh, I really want to encourage you to expand your concept of grief and loss. That we're talking about um, not just death, but we're talking about um, um, can be something as simple as you lost your keys and you've lost the power to leave on time. So, I mean, that sounds silly, but technically that's literally what we're talking about. If you have you ever lost your keys and it's just the end of the world? Well, that's probably because there's been multiple little losses of things that have built up over time. Another really common one is the loss of what it should have been or what it could have been. So a relationship that's not good with a parent or a spouse or a child, or there's a loss. There's a like this is what it could have been, this is what it should have been, and this is what it is, and it's sad and it's a loss. Most of our focus probably is really going to be um, primarily focused on death and loss, but keep in mind these principles apply to anything and any type of loss. And it's just something to kind of tuck away because you may look at somebody and think, man, this person's grieving. Like, yeah, they are because they've lost something. Major changes in life, moves, uh, uh, retiring is a pretty big one, pretty common struggle time for people, and there's kind of a grief and loss process that goes on there. So how does a person grieve? It is so highly individualized. There are many, many, many factors that play into how a person grieves, and here's a list of some of those things, and there's other things as well. In the 60s, a lady named Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was really did some amazing work. In the 60s, we didn't talk about death. My dad's 88 years old, and death is, well, he's kind of, he's a bit of a freak. I don't mean that in a negative, like a put down, just a little bit of an oddity in that um, we have quite the sense of humor, and so we joke about him not him dying. He's getting old, like, oh, Gramps, still with us. That's good. He'll laugh. Yep, still alive, still kicking. Like, okay, good. Which, by the way, is intentional, and it seems a little strange to some people, but it is part of our uh, personal family culture of dealing with grief and loss and death. And Gramps is not going to be with us much longer. It appears. I say much longer. It could be 2 or 3 years, 5 years, whatever. But over the scheme of things, he's really not going to be with us that much longer. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was really helped get people talking about death and increased our understanding of death. And the 5 stages that she came up with, you've probably heard of, and they're still talked about today. These are not static, right? So generally speaking, the first one is the first thing that happens, and the last one is the last thing that happens. That's about it. Beyond that, it's all over the place. It's even possible that someone would feel anger and or sadness first, and then denial. Now, the bargaining is a little bit of an oddity in that what she started with was people who were dying. So, dying of cancer, I'm going to die here real soon. Lord, if you'll let me live, I'll go to church every Sunday. I'll darken the doors every time the church is open. That's a bargaining process. But people can bargain around the dying person, and there can even be some bargaining afterwards, which almost seems psychotic. But some of the things with death do seem a little bit irrational. They are irrational. And if you've ever experienced the death of a close person, you'll understand. I mean, the phone rings and you're like, oh, that's John. You're like, oh, shoot, John's dead. I forgot. I mean, literally, like, oh, you literally expecting it to be them. You want it to be them psychologically. So that's very normal. So a lot of movement back and forth between these stages. Let's see. And these stages apply to other losses, which we started off with talking about, that there are other losses other than just death. um, People who deal well with death also deal well with major stressors in their life. Now, this is interesting here because we're not just there's so many angles, which just kind of makes it fun for me. I'm like, oh, it's no, this is not, I'm not an engineer. This is not 2 + 2 = 4. This is not, here's the formula and this is how it works. No, this is different and unique every single time, which is beautiful. There are some interwoven similarities, and even outside of culture, there's some similarities. We'll talk about that in a minute. So here's what I mean by this one. Okay, so if a person is dying and they know they're dying, how they deal with it is there's a parallel between, oh, well, Grandpa handled stressors in life really well. When things got stressful, he handled it. He's like, hey, we got this, we're okay. Then he's going to handle it well. But also for those around the person that's watching the person die or experiencing the death of someone, either in process or already done, their own coping skills, their own ability to handle stress is also going to impact the way that they deal with grief and loss. I also am going to talk a fair amount about how I want you to begin to think about, how did your family handle death? And I want you to start with the goldfish or the pet mouse or the dog, or whatever it was that died, that you first remember. How did your family handle that? And we'll talk about some of those things and how incredibly insane and unhealthy some families are when it comes to that. And then, when someone dies, I wonder why we all freak out and don't know what to do, because we don't know how to handle the death of Sally the fish. How in the world are we going to handle the death of our favorite uncle or our closest grandparent? So families are a training ground and a teaching ground, and I don't say this. I don't go down this road to cause people to feel shame if your family handles it poorly. I say this to say to you, be one who handles this healthy in your family, and we'll get back to that. All right. So the time period, how long does it take for someone to grieve? And someone may ask you that. Well, how long is this going to take? Different for everybody. Very different for everybody. I had something specific. I had something specific in mind when I said the specific things, right? So there are as many examples as we could come up with for this one right here. And what I mean by this is, some people will never go to the graveside. They're done. I mean, they may go initially, right? You go to the graveside, you bury the person, you leave, right? Other people are going to want to go on their birthday, on every major holiday, and you need to let them. You need to let them not, or you need to let them do it or not do it, whichever works for them, right? So that's what I'm talking about in terms of there's very unique things to people. I've seen people, had people, worked with people write a letter and take it to the graveyard and put it under a rock by their person, bringing closure. Some people would just think that's weird and no, I'm not going to do whatever, and it's fine, right? It's really okay. It's okay to do those kinds of things. It's okay to not do those kinds of things. There are some things that I have really struggled, right? Okay, so here's your personal bias, and then there's the client, right? So there is this, and you've probably seen this in movies where someone comes along and they're trying to be a part of someone's life, and they're like, dude, you haven't let go of so and so, right? You're still in love with, or you're still holding on to, as though they were alive, this person, so much so that you can't even let me in. And sometimes that's symbolized by, a chair left empty in a particular place. All of their room left exactly like it was when they died. There's even been people that have had someone die in their home and just leave the person sitting in their chair and not tell anybody that the person died and act like they're alive. I mean, now that's like a psychotic breakdown. I know that's like really bizarre. That's the 0.01 percentile level stuff, but it happens, but not very often at all. So So again, you have to be careful in terms of what's healthy and what's unhealthy, right? And some things it's like, yeah, leaving dead grandma in the chair and not telling anybody that she's died and saying good morning to her every morning is clearly unhealthy. I don't care what your culture is, right? Um, Having a chair that's kind of in memory of them may or may not be unhealthy. Again, my bias would be I would tend to think that's unhealthy. But again, who am I to fault a person for that? You just have to be real careful with that sort of thing. Um, culture wide. Well, but let me. I didn't say that. Again, I'm not going to read to you, but it is so normal. It is such a normal, natural part of life, and people, oh, but it's a child, and I want to protect my child from it. Well, why? It's normal. You're saying it's not normal, or it's not okay, or it's not something we can walk through together as family or deal with. It's just bizarre to me that people don't that people protect their children from death. That's just I think that makes it difficult for them to know how to deal with death once they become older. And you may strongly disagree with me on that, and that's okay. I can smile and love you, and hopefully you can do the same towards me. All right, so cultural wide, they've done studies on this. People cry, people feel sad, people get angry, disorganized, difficulty performing difficult normal activities, going to work, normal stuff. I didn't remember to take the trash out because I was just out of it. Difficulty getting up and fixing breakfast, right? I mean, just literally just simple little stuff. Um, Cultures have rules for grieving behavior, and some of that is good and some of that is bad. Some of that is very, you need to stuff it. You need to, I can remember, it makes me so mad. And you may, this again, you may be like, what's wrong with that? I mean, this is kind of talk that's going to make some of you mad, and that's okay. I'm a counselor. Counselors believe in catharsis to get it out, to get it off your chest. We need to talk about stuff. We need to process stuff. Well, I don't like to talk, and that's not my personality. And blah, 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 blah. Okay, you're going to do it less than someone who does talk a lot, but it's still there's some level of need for that. And you need to allow those around you who need that to do that because they need it, and it's a legitimate need. Good chance if you're in this class, you're in that camp of like, yeah, we need to talk about stuff, right? So if you're not, then I question why you're wanting to be a counselor if you're wanting to be a counselor. I know I'm just offending people left and right. That's okay. And you're not even here you can't even argue with me because it's a video. So I understand. So it's all right. Come to class and we'll talk about it. So cultures have rules, and some of them are beneficial and helpful in the grieving process, and some of them are not. One of my favorite examples of grief and loss of grieving is King David when Jonathan died. It says he got down off of his horse and he fasted and prayed and wept for 5 days or a week, and then he got up, washed off his face, ate, drank, got on his horse, and left. Like, there you go. Now, it doesn't mean it was completely over. I'm sure he thought of Jonathan and had sadness from time to time. That's fine. That's great. But man, he dealt with it. He stopped and cried. Like, by golly, we're just going to do this right here, right now. And I love that. I think that's a very healthy example, a good biblical healthy example of mourning. I love that Jesus wept when when Lazarus. I'm like, what's his name? Come on, somebody help me. Lazarus died. Again, that's a mourning process. So be aware of your own culture, not only your culture at large, but the culture of your family and what is healthy and what is unhealthy in terms of the bereavement grieving process. Guilt is common, particularly if people are if there's a suicide or an accident. With the suicide, I woulda, coulda, shoulda, myself to death. I wish I should have seen it. I should have known. If only I would have. Those kinds of things, which is not healthy. And then an accident is, well, I wish, heck, it could have been me. House burnt down and somebody dies in the house, or there was a car accident and somebody dies. Man, I wish it would have been me instead of them. Right? I feel guilty. Other than that, sometimes people feel guilty when people die, but not necessarily. And then there's the concept of delayed or masked grief, which complicates the process and is not healthy. 1980 Bowlby, and that's a very big name, came up with 5 conditions that impact the grieving process. So the role of the person who died, so we're talking about what role did they play? Were they a spouse? Were they a child, a parent, a distant relative, sibling, an animal, right? The family pet. We had let's see, over the Thanksgiving holidays, it was on a Friday or Saturday. We were outside doing yard work. It was beautiful weather, beautiful day here in Texas, and this little beagle dog like came walking up, and I'm like, well, hey buddy, and he just came right up to me, and I squatted down and stuck my hand out, and we became best friends instantly. And I looked for a tag, and he's got a collar on but no tag, and I'm like, shoot, great, no tag, well, shoot. And I'm thinking, man, some poor family, here it is, Thanksgiving weekend, and some poor family has lost their dog, and what a loss, right? This is a family, misses a part of their family. I'm not a tree hugger. I'm not a big animal, Oh, to me, it's not quite as severe or quite the same as if your child or your spouse dies, but it is painful and it is a loss. I tend to, my grieving over a dead animal is going to be pretty short, sweet, and to the point. And yeah, that's sad, and we're going to miss little whatever, and I'm kind of done. That's just me. I know some of y'all are like, oh my gosh, you're so insensitive. Whatever. Get over it. I know it's just terrible. We're talking about grief and loss, and I'm being just cruel and harsh and cold. Okay, but seriously, I do know that that can be a big deal for people. I guess part of what I want you to catch is that it's different, right? It's different. If you're really close to your spouse and your spouse dies, that's a problem. If you're not all that close to your spouse and your spouse dies, usually there's a lot of sadness over the way it could have been. We kind of talked about that earlier. If a child dies, it's really hard. The younger that child is, the worse it is. Probably the most difficult and most painful type of death that we know of. I just shared with y'all, a friend of mine, his 24-year-old son committed suicide about a month ago. Extremely, extremely painful for them. If your parents 90 years old and die, it's like, hey, usually you kind of see it coming, and it's good. It's like it's okay. It's expected. It's normal. It's a lot easier, generally speaking, especially if the relationship is good. Um, the age and the gender of the person that is still alive, the bereaved one, affects how we grieve. The cause and the circumstances, death, sudden death, terminal illness, right? Unexpected death, old age. We kind of touched on this already. And then I want you to catch, you're like, some of these, like, these overlap. Yeah, they really do. Because you've got the role of the person and the cause of the death wrapped up within each other, right? So the role of a 90-year-old is much less significant than the role of a 40-year-old. In terms of financial support, in terms of making things happen and making plans happen, right? I mean, it's very different roles. And that's not valuing people one person more than another. It's just very different roles, right? Many times when a woman dies, right? So gender. So, and again, I'm not trying to be. I'm just telling you this is culturally how it is in a lot of places. Not for everybody, and that's okay too. But many times the woman's, let's say grandmother, right? She's the hub. She brings the family together. We all go to grandma's house for Thanksgiving, right? So I don't have a grandparent alive, so I don't have this. So, but I have had this in the past. So that impacts. If grandma and grandpa, you go to grandma's house for Thanksgiving and grandpa dies, you still go to grandma's house for Thanksgiving in a lot of cultures and in most settings. If grandma dies, we don't still go to grandpa's house for Thanksgiving necessarily. We're probably going to transfer over to one of the adult children. Not always. I know. Well, I had this uncle that, this one family. I knew this family. Of course, there's exceptions. I get that. It may only be 51% true, but it's majority. Okay. Let's see. Social and psychological circumstances, depending on the social support network that a person has, the psychological health of the person. The bereaved person, right? The person who has experienced the loss. These are going to affect the way a person handles death. And then the personality of the person, obviously. Some people just naturally, personality-wise, they're going to bounce back from anything. They're extremely optimistic. They're They're good. They're resilience is a big word. So then we have normal bereavement, which is we really already talked about going through those 5 stages. Again, it's going to look different for everybody, but the process. Complicated bereavement is usually, most commonly, when a person, a family member, does not allow another family member to grieve appropriately, or the person does not allow themselves to grieve appropriately. So they just stuff it. I'm fine. I don't feel anything. I'm good. I shouldn't feel anything. I'm not going to feel anything. I'm fine. Just I'm good. I'm fine. Like, no, not good. Not healthy. What do we do about it? What do we do dealing with it if it becomes a problem? Individual counseling, group counseling. Um, and then I want to talk a little bit about children. Let me back up and go back to what I was talking about earlier. And that is, I want you to think about your family. What happened when Sally the fish died? I have literally known of families to where the dog died. Kid was at school, dog got hit by a car and died. The mom ran around town to try to find another dog about the same age and the same look as the dog that died. Man, I'm thinking, if I'm 5 years old, I think I'm onto that one. Like, I'm gonna know this is not my little Bobo, right, or whatever my dog's name is, right? This is not my little Charlie. It's just not. I'm sorry, but it's just not. I think I would know. Maybe not. Maybe not. But that's a true story. And I'm like, yeah. So we're not going to tell the child that the dog died. Why? For the life of me, I have no idea. I guess to protect the child from truth. Ooh, that's a freedom issue, right? Um, the truth will set you free, right? So to protect the child from pain. Ooh, is a parent's job to protect the child from pain? No, in fact, a parent's job sometimes is to bring pain upon a child, physically by spanking, yes. Um, Allowing them to struggle with emotional pain or difficult situations. That's how we grow. That's how we get stronger. Um, so the message is this is painful and this is hard and this is sad, but you grab the hand and you sit and cry with or sit and be sad with and move on and say it's going to be okay. In our family, every time Sally the fish died, man, hey guys, come here, look, I'm so sorry, baby. Sally the fish has died. Isn't that sad? And they're like, oh, yeah, it's sad. Sally was a great fish. And we talk about, we have our little, service. We're talking about how great Sally the fish was. And then, and the kid's 3 years old, yeah, 5, whatever. And then we have our grieving time. Literally, that's what we're doing. We're just processing it. We're grieving. We're all kind of sad together. Of course, it's half act for mom and dad, but we're all sad together. And then we flush Sally the toilet, Sally the fish down the toilet, and the kids all, oh, I want to flush. I want to flush. Okay, cool. Yeah, here you can flush Sally the fish down the toilet. So it is literally those situations that help teach children. It is difficult, it is sad, it is painful. We come together as a family, we support each other, we love each other, we listen to each other, we talk, we encourage, we process, we talk about the fish that died or the dog that died, or we talk about it, and then we move on. And they get that and they understand that and they put that together. When Uncle Cedric died, my youngest was probably 2.5, 3 maybe. Well, if she was 3, then we had one younger than that, but too young to count as far as remembering anything. But my Deborah Jo tells me she remembers going and seeing Uncle Cedric and looking in the casket at his dead body. And I said, so was that a bad thing or a good thing? She goes, no, it was good. It was fine. It was good. It was a little bit like, oh, but she goes, yeah, I get it. It's like, it's death. It's normal. It's part of life. She has a very healthy view of death. It's like, there you go. People were like, what? You let her see a dead body? I'm like, yeah, it was Uncle Cedric. We had to say about Uncle Cedric. Yeah, I did. And it was beautiful and it was good. All of my children experienced that and was fine with that. Okay. That's it, I believe. Let's see. It is. All right, guys. God bless. Thanks for watching my video, and I will see y'all next time. Uh-oh. Where is my... There it is. All right, see you guys.